Welcome to Frameworks. This is a place for coaches who want more than just reps and sets. Here, we dig into principles, philosophy, and stories that help you coach with clarity, design with purpose, and to keep chasing mastery. Today, we're going to challenge one of the biggest myths in health and fitness, and that is that outcomes are going to motivate people to move. But here's the truth. Telling someone that they're going to reduce their risk of cardiovascular disease, drop their body fat, or raise their VO2 max just isn't enough to keep them moving with consistency. We are emotional beings, not data machines. That's why the real work isn't to convince people with outcomes, but to connect them with the movement itself, to help them see movement not as exercise, not as a chore, but as a gift. So in this episode, we're going to break down a few things. Number one, why outcomes fail as motivators. Number two, how meaning, emotion, and autonomy are the things that actually drive consistency. And finally, how coaches can reframe movement so clients want to do it, not feel forced to. If you want your clients to move more, enjoy it more, and sustain it for life, this episode might be for you. So now let's get into it. Okay, so before we kick this episode off and kind of dig into the frameworks behind this, let's talk about motivation. So what is motivation? Motivation is the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way, okay? Motivation doesn't live in outcomes. It lives in meaning, or if we were to go back to the definition, the reason or reasons. So I think that is really, really important for us to start off with and for us to understand, because we talk about motivation a lot. And sometimes when we look at motivation, we look at it as like a carrot, where it's like, here's this carrot, keep moving toward that carrot. But motivation, real motivation, something to actually get someone to move in a certain direction with consistency, is a lot more than that carrot. It's deeper than that carrot. Okay, it's the reasons or reasons, or it's the reason or reasons why someone ought to do something. So we have to disconnect the motivation from the outcomes of doing the thing, if that makes sense. Okay, so when movement feels good, it connects to our values or those reasons, and it fits into our daily lives. It becomes sustainable. That's the work of a coach. That's our work. That's the work that we have to do. It's not selling data points, but it is maybe using or utilizing some of those data points to connect it to those reasons behind someone might want to do something. And then there's the emotional piece, which we'll talk about later. But let's just talk about, or let's agree on at least, that motivation foundationally is built on a reason or a number of reasons as to why someone might do something with any amount of consistency. And if that is lacking, I think that we would all agree that motivation will diminish, or it'll go away. So we have to think about, okay, what are people's motivators? And I'm not saying motivation doesn't matter. It really does. But I think that a lot of us, and I've fallen into this trap before, we look at it wrong, right? We look at it as like the carrot, the outcome. Do the thing and you'll get the outcome. But we'll talk about where that falls short here in a second. All right, framework number one, or the first thing that I want us to think about and wrestle with a little bit, is this idea or concept that outcomes aren't the things that motivate, feelings motivate. Okay, so I talked about it to kick off the show, that we are emotional beings. We are extremely, extremely emotional beings, and we fall back on that motivation a lot of the time. Okay, so this could be a feature or a bug in us as humans, that we are extremely motivational beings. You guys can probably discern and think about in what cases it might be a bug, right? Like when we argue something from a place of emotion and not from a place of logic and truth and fact. But we can also see where it could be a feature. Okay, and that's what I want to talk about and hone in on today, is how can we use motivation as a feature and not as a bug. Okay, so as humans, I think that it's really important to agree on and understand that we seek pleasure and we avoid pain at the end of the day. Most of us seek pleasure and avoid pain. So coaches, we must align our prescriptions with, honestly, what feels good, not just what is good for them. And that is really challenging because it is absolutely a balance. Okay, so when your client hires you, they're not hiring you to just be a yes man or a yes woman, right? They're hiring you because they are trying to reach a particular goal or outcome, and they trust that you are going to get them there. Now the recipe to get them there is so individualized and personalized. Okay. And this is where the art of coaching really comes into play. We know principles. We all understand that as coaches. And we talk about this in the OPEX method. And this is one of our relationship building principles, this pleasure or this understanding that humans are always seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. Just naturally, we're seeking that pleasure and avoiding that pain. If we understand that, we should then go to, okay, how can I leverage this understanding? How can I leverage this principle? What we need to do is we need to balance what is good for someone with what they want to do or what doesn't feel terrible to them. Okay. So a very rudimentary example. If you have a client that comes in and they're like, hey, coach, I want to lose weight. Okay. In your Rolodex of information and principles and all of your knowledge and your acumen as a coach, you probably have dozens and dozens of things that come to mind when you think about if I can get this client to do this, they're going to lose weight, or that they're going to lose weight. Now the art comes into play. How can you connect that prescription to what you think they're going to be compliant in? And then we have to understand that because we are emotional beings and we're seeking that pleasure and we're avoiding pain, the prescription, you have to consider what are they actually going to do or be compliant in, and we have to land on it's going to be something that they're going to enjoy. Okay, so that's where this balance really comes into play, and we're kind of jockeying for position where it's like we understand the person, and that's why it's so important to understand the human in front of you, understand their values, their principles, what's important to them, what are their goals, what do they love doing, what do they not love doing. Okay, so let's say that this person absolutely hates working really, really hard. Okay. So maybe you have your work cut out for you because maybe in the back of your head, you're like, I want to align them with hard work and I want them to fall in love with hard work. Yeah. Good luck. You might get there, but you're not going to get there today. Okay. So how do you meet them exactly where they are? So instead of saying, oh man, I have this like awesome HIIT protocol where I'm going to throw them on this spin bike and we're going to go as hard as we can for 20 seconds. We're going to take 10 seconds rest and we're going to do that for 8. And then we're going to rest for 5. And we're going to do that for 2 blocks. Maybe you don't want to start there with this person. Maybe you just want to walk and lift weights with this person because they told you, hey, I really enjoy just taking my time, throwing in my headphones and lifting weights. Okay. So you can get to that same outcome, but just by using a different prescription. And there's dozens of other prescriptions that could get them there, but maybe that's where you start because they've told you that is what I enjoy doing. So we should always think about those things when we're thinking about what is the proper prescription for this client in front of me. Okay, so data, we have to think about data. We have to think about risk reduction. And we also have to think about future health metrics. And we have to really wrestle with, do these actually inspire action? Okay, so my question is, do you think that data, risk reduction, and future health metrics really inspire action? Maybe for some, but again, we have to go back and we have to understand the human. We have to understand the person. To give you an example, future health metrics might not inspire someone that thinks that they're very healthy today, right? Like I'm not going to be inspired by increasing or improving my biomarkers in 15 years if my biomarkers are completely fine today, right? I might not be able to connect those dots and prioritize those things because I haven't felt pain there, right? Like I haven't seen something on paper that's telling me, hey, dude, you really need to focus and hone in on these things. Again, we go back to emotional or emotions and how we're emotional beings. Okay, but if I'm someone that, I'm fresh off of an annual physical and my doctor told me that my blood pressure is crazy and my glucose is way too high and I'm at risk for type 2 diabetes, maybe I'm scared. Okay, so fear is an emotion. So I might act on that emotion of fear, right? But we should never end there, right? Like we shouldn't be fear mongers and say you should be doing this so this negative thing doesn't happen. Maybe that's like the initial motivator, but over time we have to connect it to something a little bit deeper than that. Not saying that fear isn't deep, but maybe that fear is going to weigh or go away when they have their next annual checkup and the doctor says, you're good to go. Is that still inspiring action? Is that still motivating them to continue to move their bodies? Okay, so we always have to be digging and finding what that actually is. Okay, and then when you give a prescription to someone, you need to think about, right? Like, What is their immediate feedback? Does this thing make them feel energized? Is there less stress? Do they feel more alive? Do they feel more driven? Do they feel more intrinsically, just call it motivated, again, to go back to that word, when you give them prescription A or B or C? So really think about that. And that's why we always say that it's so important that you're always assessing. ABA, yeah, always be assessing, right? So we have to always be assessing, and those little triggers or those little feedback loops of energy and stress and those subjective, weekly check-ins that you might be giving someone in CoachRx, those could be really good green or red flags one way or the other. Framework number 2. From a chore to a gift, we have to reframe movement. We have to reframe it in our own minds, and then we have to reframe it in our clients' minds, okay? So we have to go from, exercise is something that we just have to do, or it's this punishment thing, or it's this thing that you have to do to get to this carrot that's right in front of you. Let's reframe that to, hey, movement is a gift. Okay. And that might take some time. That definitely will take some time with a lot of people. But if movement is framed as work, it feels like a tax. It feels like work. If it's framed as it should be enjoyable, it becomes more so a reward. Okay. So how do we do that? It's all in the prescription, and it's connecting what someone enjoys to that prescription, just like we talked about in framework number 1. Okay, so a lot of people often associate quote unquote exercise with failure or obligation. Okay, so how can we reframe it as just movement? Let's not even talk about it. Let's even redefine what we're calling this. Let's stop calling it exercise all the time, and let's just call it movement. Let's call it movement. Okay, it should be something natural. It should be something enjoyable, and it should be tied to feelings of energy, feelings of vitality. And I tell you guys, I can't tell you the amount of times in a number that I've worked with someone and they just started moving and they're just like, I can't explain it. I just feel better. I just feel better. And this is not always related to I feel better because my outcomes are better, or I feel better because these jeans fit, or I feel better because I've gained muscle or I lost fat. It's just I feel better because I just feel better. I'm just moving, right? So I want you to ask yourselves, what types of movement feel good to you personally? Actually self-assess for a second. What leaves you energized? Okay. And then on the other side, what leads you feeling terrible? Okay. You could even back it up further than that. What types of things that you do in movement do you look forward to? Okay, I think that's probably an even better way to look at this. What do you look forward to and what do you dread? No matter if you do it or not, what do you look forward to and what do you dread? Okay, lean into the things that you look forward to. Okay, not saying don't ever do the things that you dread. I think that there's a lot of power in doing things that we don't want to do because that's just life. We're going to have to do those things. But really think about what leaves me energized, what do I look forward to, and lean into those. And then start having those conversations with your clients. Ask your clients those questions. How did Monday feel, right? I prescribed you a 30-minute walk. How did you feel before that walk? How did you feel during, after that walk? Do you notice anything in how that affected your energy throughout the rest of the day compared to before we started adding these 30-minute walks in? Okay. So really think about those things for yourself, identify where those areas are for you, and then, pass that on. Identify those things with your clients. And honestly, guys, if the goal is compliance and just movement on a daily basis, let's just lean into those things. Let's not let perfect be the enemy of good. If we all agree that movement is the aim, movement is the outcome that we're trying to get people to, maybe it's not always exercise. Maybe it's not always, I need you to do full body resistance 3 to 4 times a week. I need you to do this type of aerobic work on Tuesdays, this other type on Thursdays. There's nothing wrong with that, but maybe that should come later on. First, we should just get people moving and moving every single day. All right, let's end it with framework number 3. And I actually think that this is the most powerful one. Yes, I'm going to talk about autonomy again, but autonomy is actually the engine of motivation. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have, thought about, learned or anything like that, self-determination theory. So this theory tells us that people sustain and do what they freely choose, not what they're told to do. So I'll repeat that. Self-determination theory. People sustain what they freely choose to do, not what they're told to do. Okay. We as humans, we're not only extremely emotional, and we're not always connected to outcomes, and those aren't our biggest motivators, but a lot of us just don't want to be told what to do. We want to freely choose what we're going to do. Okay. That doesn't mean that we can't lead someone in what they ought to be doing and teach them the reasons as to why they should be doing those things. I'm not saying that at all, but people want to understand the why behind things, and they want to make the decision, and they want to be empowered to make that decision day in and day out, that I am going to do this. I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to move my body, as soon as the sun comes up, and I'm going to do it because it feels good, and I'm going to do it because I'm freely choosing to do it. Okay. So I think that's a really, insightful thing to think about. And not everyone sits here though. Not everyone sits here. There is a percentage of the population that just wants to be a robot, and they just want to be told what to do, and they don't want to, and I don't mean this I guess I kind of do mean it in a negative way, so forgive me, but they don't want to take any self-responsibility, right? They just want to be told what to do, when to do it, how to do it. Okay. So understand the people that you're working with when thinking about this one. Coaching means guiding clients to discover their own why. And this is really important. And, in our kickoff call in the OPEX method, I always talk about this. I'm like, consider and wrestle with your why. Okay. I'm going to tell you what our why is as a company, because I'm speaking for OPEX on these calls. I'm going to tell you what our why is as a company. Do not fall into the trap of just grabbing OPEX's why and saying that this is also mine. Okay. So coaching means guiding your clients to discover their own why, not prescribing one for them or saying like, maybe this is it, or maybe that's it. That's a tough one. They have to wrestle with it, and they have to come up with it on their own. And then what your job is as a coach is to help them get there. And then once they get there, is to connect fitness to that thing. Okay. Connect fitness to their why. We talk about this all the time. Fitness, wellness, health, all of these things that we talk about, they can be connected to any why. I like to spend time with my children. Well, how can you being a healthier human allow you to spend more quality time and for longer with your children? I love my job. Work is what motivates me. It's my why. It's like, man, maybe have a conversation with that person on that and dig a little bit deeper. But if work is their why, it's like, how can, being a healthier human increase your cognitive abilities, right? So any why can be connected back, or anything that we talk about in fitness can be connected forward to whatever their why is, or back to what their why is. Okay. And then movement must connect to personal meaning. So enjoying a walk in the sun, maybe some people enjoy, just challenging themselves and hitting a tough workout. And then it's your job to balance like the tough versus the easy. And you have like this awesome periodized, polarized, training methodology that you're hitting with your person. But that movement has to connect to that personal meaning. Okay. And to connect to a personal meaning, I'm not even going like super deep with like whys and stuff like that. Right now, I'm just saying like, it just feels good to them. They enjoy doing it. For some people, they enjoy doing it because in the moment, it makes them feel good. For some, after they're done, it makes them feel good. For others, it's like, I just enjoy challenging myself. So I enjoy doing those challenging workouts, and, adapting and recovering and all that stuff, and just doing that stuff perpetually. Okay, now a couple things I want to consider in terms of how to apply all these frameworks with our clients. Number one, just start with questions, not prescriptions. What forms of movement do you enjoy? When do you feel at your best? When do you feel at your worst? What do you not enjoy? What have you done in the past that has shown connections to results, whatever results mean to you, all of those things. Number two, celebrate immediate wins. Okay. So we should reinforce how clients feel after moving. So energy, mood, clarity. So they connect movement with that pleasure. Okay. I like to call this like earned dopamine. Okay. I think it's terrible for us to pick up our phone and scroll and just like get hit with like, pieces of dopamine and not working for it or not earning it. But it's something completely different when we go out and we spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, and we feel really good after that. We just earn that dopamine. That's actually a good thing. Lean into that. Okay. Create movement snacks. You guys have probably heard this, right? Like there's been a good amount of research done when it compares someone, getting up in the morning and doing a really tough, like 60-minute training session, and then they just sit behind Zoom all day, versus the person that, wakes up and maybe they do a little work and then they move and then they do some work and then they move. The outcomes with the person that moves more often is actually better than the person that moves with more intensity, but only in one portion of their day. So start to implement those things, start to prescribe those things. Number 4, respect autonomy. Okay. So we have to provide options, okay, not ultimatums. Give clients choice in how they move, while we're still anchoring it in the principles that we all know and that we're all giving our clients, because results are super, super important. But remember what I said at the beginning, there's dozens and dozens of prescriptions that we can give a client to move them forward. It's the art, that comes into play where we're like, do I use prescription 1, 2, or 3? Okay. So respect that autonomy, provide options. And then finally, reframe success. So instead of only tackling outcomes, weight loss, VO2 max, all of those things, track consistency. Consistency is, in my opinion, it's the North Star. It's the thing that we should all be focusing on and moving people toward. How can I make you more consistent? Because one thing that I can guarantee, your people will not have any success if they're not consistent, okay? So consistency is like the foundation of anything. Why am I worried about sets and reps and clusters and German volume training and full body resistance and all that if we're not being consistent around it, okay? So track consistency, make consistency that North Star. And then we can look at things like, well, are you enjoying your movement? Is your movement actually leading to increased energy levels? All of those things. So those are just some ideas to think about when implementing these frameworks with your clients. So hope today was helpful. We were kind of all over the place inside of this whole concept of like motivation and, how we're looking at motivation. And I think if we just start looking at it through a different lens with a different perspective, the outcomes that we'll get will just be so much better. And again, like a lot of the stuff that we talk about, this isn't only with fitness. Okay. So this goes across life, right? Our relationships, our family, us as mothers and fathers, as friends, whatever our occupation is, all of that stuff. Really think about motivation and what's motivating you to move forward, right? To go that extra mile, all of those things. And when we really sit down and we think about these things, we have to think about, where are we going wrong today, right? Like, where are we leaking motivation? Where are we just checking a box and just kind of getting through our day? Again, we're not going to be unbelievably inspired around everything that we're doing on a daily basis, but the things that we're doing most of the time, they have to bring us fulfillment. They have to, right? And again, I'm not going to get, woo-woo and saying like, drop everything and only do the things that bring you fulfillment. But man, you better be doing the bulk share of whatever you're doing on a daily basis should be fulfilling to you. And if it's not, I'm not saying like quit that thing right now, but just pause and take a moment and ask yourself, why is it not? Okay. Understand principles, understand how to work with people. Okay. You don't have to be a behavioral scientist to understand how to have conversations with people and lead them to where they want to go, not even where you think they need to go, but where they need to go. And for all of us that have already gone through our program, continue to lean into those principles that we taught in those behavior modules. For you guys that have not been through the OPEX method, it would just be so awesome to have more coaches underneath our wing and to educate these coaches. And quite frankly, whenever we have new I say this all the time, like every client that we work with is another N=1. I feel the same with new coaches that we work with. Well, for me personally, every client or every new coach that I work with, it's an N=1. And it's your questions and your challenges that actually get my brain going and challenge me to think. So I say all that to say that if you haven't gone through our program, or if you've gone through our program in the past and you want to give it a try and go through the new format, just get signed up. We start our free, we start our first cohort in October. I'm filming this in September. So October 14th is our first OPEX method mentorship, where we're actually taking coaches and we're helping them build their entire coaching system using the OPEX principles, using our software and CoachRx and all of that. So if you have been through CCP or if you've not been through CCP, highly suggest that you guys look at that landing page. It'll be in the description here. Check it out and jump on a call with one of our advisors and see if it might be helpful for you. But until next time, I appreciate your time, and I will see everyone next week.